While we've all been doing vibe coding, Tyler Fisk has gone to the next level to build production AI agents.
We are on a podcast right now, so no pressure at all. And we're going to do a live agent build here.
We're spinning up multiple agents here just to kind of get this process done and get all the context that we need as quickly as possible.
I love how many parallel processes you have going here. My guest today, Tyler Fisk, is one of the world's most experienced AI agent builders in the world. He has taught thousands of students to build AI agents, and he has worked with hundreds of businesses to implement AI agents in their workflows.
We find that a lot of the work comes when we're doing this for actual clients and what we teach. It's this idea of the mentality of an AI practitioner, which happens to be very similar to the forward deployed engineer mentality.
Anybody who's watched this far knows why you've hit that success. You just packed thousands of dollars of lessons into 60 seconds.
Deep research is such a powerful tool that I think more people should know about and use, because it's just such a good way to gather info for your agents quickly.
One huge takeaway for me from watching you build these is really quickly, I think a crazy stat is that more than 50% of you listening are not subscribed. If you can subscribe on YouTube, follow on Apple or Spotify podcasts, my commitment to you is that we'll continue to make this content better and better. And now on to today's episode. While we've all been doing vibe coding, Tyler Fisk has gone to the next level to build production AI agents. My guest today, Tyler Fisk, is one of the world's most experienced AI agent builders in the world. He has taught thousands of students to build AI agents, and he has worked with hundreds of businesses to implement AI agents in their workflows. He has gone to the next level to productionize these multi-agent workflows. He normally charges thousands of dollars for this knowledge. Today, we're giving it all away for free. Tyler, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Aakash. I'm really excited to be here.
What are we going to do today?
Well, we are going to go from idea to building out a couple of different AI agents, and then see if we can have them all work together and orchestrate and build an AI workflow real time from scratch.
Do you need a CS degree to build AI agents in production?
No, I don't think so. I don't have one, and we've had loads of people come through our class. In fact, there's a running joke that says, we've even had a student say that they couldn't even spell AI if we spotted them 2 vowels, and yet they're building agentic workflows in 4 weeks. So yeah, no, you don't need a CS degree anymore, I don't think.
Amazing. Can you show us how it's done?
Sure, yeah. So what do we want to try and build today?
I want to see a multi-agentic workflow. Let's work on some popular company like Apple.
Cool, let's do it. And we will start in a tool called Typing Mind. And Typing Mind is essentially like a playground tool for any LLM that we want. And so I can use an agent that I use frequently called Gigawatt. And Gigawatt here is an AI prompt engineering and AI engineering agent. And we're going to run this. It's going to be connected to Sonnet 4. I've got some MCP tools toggled on here, like Exa, Perplexity, sequential thinking. And then we're going to do some research, because we find that a lot of the work comes when we're doing this for actual clients, and what we teach is that it's this idea of the mentality of an AI practitioner, which happens to be very similar to the forward deployed engineer mentality. So we need to understand the problem, understand the business, really get to the secret sauce of it. And from there, we can kind of gather all of our requirements and then start our build.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's see here. What we wanted to try and do this for Apple, I think is what we wanted to do.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So I joke when I tell people what I do for a living now is I talk funny to robots. So that's what we're going to do here with Gigawatt. So, hey Gigawatt, what's up? We are on a podcast right now, so no pressure at all. And we're going to do a live agent build here. What we're going to do is we want to build an expert level agent for Apple, and that's Apple Computer. So I want you to go out and use your tools, your sequential thinking tool, your deep research tool, Perplexity, to really think about if we were going to be building an agentic workflow that handles inbound customer service type emails, and we're going to have 2 different AI agents as a part of this AI team to handle those. One of them is going to be this expert, and that's the one that we're going to focus on first. It's not going to talk to any people. Its whole job is to go and find the best possible information to help support the email agent that we're going to dub You've Got Mail, and then send that response to it, and then it will craft that email out to the customer service or to the customer as a customer service agent to respond to them. So I want you to think on this deeply. Ask me, let's say, 3 clarifying questions so that you and I are on the same page. We're not in prompt engineering mode yet. This is where you're just going to do brainstorming, and we're getting on alignment on what this build is that we're going to do. All right, let's see what you got. Go get them, Slugger. So that's a funny thing that we always do here at the end. Like, people always ask, like, why the heck are you saying go get them, Slugger? And the fact that I'm even talking to this agent in this way, like very kind of loosey-goosey, and I'm actually just like talking to it. So I'm using Mac Whisper on my computer, is because the system instructions for Gigawatt here are extremely detailed and comprehensive and trained on how it is that we've done this process for several years now at this point. So we can see it's using its sequential thinking tool here. It's thinking about like what it wants to go do. This is very similar to the thinking traces that you get from like any of the reasoning models, but we can use this tool with any model now. And it's come back and it's asking us these questions here. So love the energy. Here we go. Apple's product ecosystem is massive. We're talking about iPhone, like the whole shebang. So it wants to know, let's see here, clarifying questions. Are we doing this to an expert that handles the entire Apple universe, or should we focus on a specific subset, like maybe the hardware support or just customer devices? Are we going full enterprise? Let's do all of the main consumer products. So, all right, Gigawatt, I'm going to go through here and answer some of your questions, just stream of consciousness style back to you here. We're going to build this expert agent so that it knows all things Apple products and Apple culture, plus normal information that it would need to know if it were an expert on the Apple team, to try and surface information that would be useful to respond to generalized customer service questions. So this could be everything from, how do I set up family sharing on my devices? How do I update the iPhone? What is even the latest iPhone? How do I do this thing in iOS? Like the whole gamut there. So we need to think about this deeply and the kind of information and expertise that we are going to need to gather in to be able to do that here. Okay, so there's that one. The second one, let's see here, what kind of customer service scenarios are we optimizing for? Are we talking technical troubleshooting, product information requests, billing, account issues, warranty, all of the above? Okay, on your second question, let's just say all of the above, just for speed. Because you never know what kind of customer service questions you're going to get, especially for a company the size of Apple. So right now, let's solve for all 4 of those that you mentioned. And let's come down here a little bit more. Our information, sources, and research step. What level of research capability should the expert have? Should it be pulling from Apple's official documentation? Okay, so great question. So it's wanting to know, basically, how is it going to know this info? We're going to build it into the system instructions, and we're going to connect it to a RAG retrieval knowledge base, and we're going to connect it to an internet tool so it can go out and actually find this information. Let's tell Gigawatt that. Hey Gigawatt, so this agent, this expert agent, will be connected to a RAG retrieval database where we will scrape in Apple's website. And for the demo, the sake of the demo, it's not going to be the entire whole website scrape just for the sake of time. But the agent needs to know that it's connected to that, and it can go search through its RAG to find anything helpful to answer the questions that the customers are asking. It's also going to have a lot of the expertise written and built into the system instructions itself. And it's going to be connected to a web search tool, so go out on the open internet to find information as well. With that one, though, we need to be careful that when it's going onto the internet, it's looking at Apple-specific sites or official information, because when it's out on the open web, that could cause hallucinations. So we need to think system instructions, RAG database first. Internet is good to find real-time info, but we need to use kind of chain of verification mentality when it's thinking about that kind of stuff. All right, so let's do that. and that should get us up and rolling.
And while this is running really quickly, if a user wants to replicate this Gigawatt infrastructure or this agent, how would they go about doing that? Can they access Gigawatt or how would they rebuild it?
Yeah, well, Gigawatt is something that we give versions of it away as a part of going through our course. That's one thing. And the other thing is like we're actually working on turning Gigawatt into a real live product. We are vibe coding this right now. Like I've been deep in VS Code with Claude Code and Codex trying to turn this into a product that I don't have to be there anymore. That like this whole back and forth that we're doing now and forcing the research and even deep research happens completely autonomously. So yeah, that's a couple ways that we're working on it.
If somebody didn't take the course or you hadn't released the product yet, how could they replicate something like this to do this on their own?
I mean, the way that I've done it is that everyone kind of has their own best practices around prompt engineering and what good looks like to them. So I have taken a lot of the work that I've done over the last several years where I manually did this. And because I originally built Gigawatt to speed up my own processes, I use like what good looks like from my point of view and how I approach it and the different AI research techniques that we use. So you heard me say chain of verification there a minute ago. That's a process that Meta came out with here a few years ago that was like produced in a research paper. I'm a nerd. Like I love reading that stuff and watching content around it. And when I saw that, I recognized, oh, this is a framework we could start incorporating into agents so that they hallucinate less frequently, because it's like reviewing the information, kind of fact checking it, giving a confidence score before it ever decides to include it in an output. So that's like one example of one piece of AI research that Gigawatt knows about. So if someone wants to rebuild that, it's kind of collecting like all of these kinds of bits and pieces of information, and then now the LLMs are really good at writing prompts to begin with. So if you could gather that, put it together, you're going to have a pretty good prompt engineering agent just going from there.
Okay, so the goal is to build a prompt engineering agent in this tool, Typing Mind, which gives that agent access to all these tools that you listed off. And then you prompt that agent, that's your agent builder helper, to help create the actual agent you want to create.
That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly right. Like it's a version of meta prompting almost, and you'll see that happen in here frequently. Like as I go through this process, like not only to build Gigawatt, the kind of odd thing that's like inception-y dream within a dream is that I've used older versions of Gigawatt plus like my feedback and improvements and new techniques that I've come up with or found out, you know, as like new research comes out, and then bake that in, and Gigawatt can meta prompt itself and help build a better version of Gigawatt or whatever agent that is that we're trying to build at the time.
It's like turtles on turtles.
You got it, yeah. So let's see here. So let's come back. So Apple Expert Agent Architecture, complete Apple ecosystem, multi-source intelligence here, chain of verification, comprehensive customer service coverage, information hierarchy. So I'm just like speed reading through this just for the sake of time. So it knows that we want to make sure that the RAG database is primary, secondaries. When it's thinking about responding, it's working from the built-in system instructions. Tertiary is going to be verified web search with confidence scoring on that. The output structure is going to be for the You've Got Mail agent. That's an important one. Like if we were doing this in production, and I won't do it today, I would probably have inter-agent communication print its output in JSON, because it's not the prettiest thing for us to look at, but when you go agent to agent, it's very useful because the LLMs can parse out information from that very easily. They make sense for them, and I know I'm like anthropomorphizing them, but it just is what it is, and that technique really works well. So while this is also running in the background, let me come over here and do this just so we're multitasking here. I'm going to switch over into Cassidy AI. Cassidy AI is a platform that we teach on and that we use frequently. It's a no-code platform, and it makes things like web scraping incredibly easy. So let's just go and grab, let's see here, apple.com, grab their website, pop back over here into Cassidy. We're going to chuck this in. I'm just going to do a domain level scrape just for expediency. We're going to do 1,000 pages. I'll turn the sync off here and just go save and begin import. And so while we finish building these agents out, this is doing a web scrape on Apple's website. And so this is what we're going to connect into the RAG here in just a moment. The other thing that I would do is this. We're going to use deep research. Hey, Gigawatt, we're going to use deep research, and we're going to work with our Clear agent, which is another agent that you're familiar with that is an expert in writing deep research prompts. So think about any areas that you think would be extremely valuable, either to help further inform you in this build process or to add as assets into a RAG retrieval knowledge base, and give me, let's say, 3 areas of deep research you would like to see done. Be as comprehensive as possible in your response there, and then I'll hand that over to the Clear agent so we can start getting those deep research agents up and rolling. Thank you.
If you've been enjoying this breakdown with Tyler on how to build multi-agent systems, you are going to love his Maven course. It is one of the highest growing courses on Maven, and if you use my code, you will get money off. So use my code AakashXMaven, use the link that's in the show description notes, that's in the email or newsletter that you got about this, or in the social media post. Find that link, go sign up for Tyler's course. He does it with his partner Sarah. This is one of the highest reviewed courses on Maven, and if you saw it, we weren't able to cover all the details in the episode. So if you want to actually get through building the workflows, deploying the workflows, building the evals, they teach all of that in the course. I highly recommend it. And now back to the episode.
All right, so let's do that. And so now we're going to let Gigawatt write this up. And again, because I'm talking to these things and just using Mac Whisper to like transcribe this, and there's lots of tools that do this now. Like I can talk so much faster than I can type. So this is getting like from every angle here, the efficiencies that I get in doing this kind of work is just exponential now at this point. It's kind of ridiculous. So why this is happening, I'm going to call in my Clear agent. This is another agent that, again, is kind of a prompt engineering agent, but it's more hyper-focused into writing deep research prompts. And that's to go directly to be used on something like Perplexity or Anthropic, ChatGPT, Google, those 4 primarily. And it will see what it is that Gigawatt wants to see deep research done in, use that to write the deep research prompt in a way that we found that works really well. And then from there, we'll go let it go do deep research. Now we're spinning up multiple agents here just to kind of get this process done and get all the context that we need as quickly as possible.
Today's episode is brought to you by Vanta. As a founder, you're moving fast toward product market fit, your next round, or your first big enterprise deal. But with AI accelerating how quickly startups build and ship, security expectations are higher earlier than ever. Getting security and compliance right can unlock growth, or stall it if you wait too long. With deep integrations and automated workflows built for fast-moving teams, Vanta gets you audit-ready fast and keeps you secure with continuous monitoring as your models, infra, and customers evolve. Fast-growing startups like LangChain, Writer, and Cursor trusted Vanta to build a scalable foundation from the start. So go to vanta.com/Aakash, that's vanta.com/AAKASH, to save $1,000 and join over 10,000 ambitious companies already scaling with Vanta. AI is writing code faster than ever, but can your testing keep up? TestCube is the Kubernetes native platform that scales testing at the pace of AI accelerated development. One dashboard, all your tools, full oversight. Run functional and load tests in minutes, not hours, across any framework, any environment. No vendor lock-in, no bottlenecks, just confidence that your AI-driven releases are tested, reliable, and ready to ship. TestCube, scale testing for the AI era. See more at testcube.io/Aakash. That's testcube.io/AAKASH.
All right, so let's see this. So let's go Clear. Hey Clear, you can read this thread so you're fully up to speed. We're building out a couple of AI agents here. One that's going to be an expert agent and one that is going to be a customer service email agent. Gigawatt has just given you back 3 different areas of deep research that we would like to see happen. So take them one at a time, focus on them each in a loop, like one right after another, and then write the deep research prompt that we can go out and use on, let's just use Perplexity and Anthropic for these, just to knock it out quickly. So do that and then write those deep research prompts, please. Thank you. All right. And again, like the reason that I'm able to just talk to these agents and it feels like I'm not prompting them that well is because on the back end, if we want to go like peek at this for just a split second, like Gigawatt system instructions, like even this version, we can see it, are quite extensive. Like this is a different version of Gigawatt. This is 3.2. It's one of the earlier versions, and it's almost 72,000 characters. So they're extremely extensive in here as to like what we're covering. They're written in XML because I do a lot of my work in Anthropic. I work with all of the models, but specifically I work a lot with Claude models, and Claude is trained on XML, so you can get it to do some additional functionality by using this. And because we're so organized, detailed on this end, we can be much more kind of like conversational on the front end here. All right. So we've got our first clear agent prompt here. So let's just take that. Again, it helps being like, I guess, neuro-spicy to kind of spin these things up quickly. So I'll just use Perplexity Deep Research to start doing that area of research. Let's come over here and we have prompt number 2. We'll go spin that one up in Claude just for variety. So let's chuck that in there, research, let it roll, pop back over here into like this last one, and we'll just do another Perplexity one just because it's a little bit faster. So
I love how many like parallel processes you have going here. That's where the speed comes from, and that's how you're going to be able to finish this in a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And this just comes from like repetition of doing this a lot. So let's see here, Gigawatt 5.1. All right, so now I'm switching the chat, like in chat, back over to Gigawatt, and I'm moved off of the clear agent. So that's kind of the cool thing here is that in Typing Mind, it's kind of like in ChatGPT, how you can call in like different custom GPTs or Gemini gems. I think you can do that too. It's the same thing here, but this is running all on the API layer. So we have much better security, much more control over like system parameters and things like that, and also like MCP tools. So let's go back here to Gigawatt, and all right, Gigawatt, we have got all 3 deep research agents up and running. So that's going to take just a second to finish. In the meantime, what I want you to do is think deeply about everything that we've discussed so far, the set and setting that we are building for here in this AI team. And I want you to give me back a PRD as you understand what it is that we're building specifically for this expert agent. And let's call this agent Core, please. Thank you.
Let's go. All the PMs are smiling. There's a PRD in here.
You got it, yeah. Yeah, so for all the folks that don't know what that is, because we have to explain our tech bro speech frequently, PRD is a product requirements document. So this is basically, think of it as like a full write-up of what are we building? Who is it for? What's this journey look like? What is it going to do? What is it not going to do? Like all of these like different lenses you look at a project through. And by doing that and even training a model on what a good PRD looks like from your point of view, that could even be and probably should be its own separate agent. Like you get a really good alignment to like lay out in the thread here of like what's our game plan, and then Gigawatt's going to go build from that. This same process works like when you're like after we've done all this work and we're like, hey, let's go turn this into an actual product or a workflow or whatever that might be. Like coming back and getting your plan together first before you ever try and go do the actual work is paramount here. All right, so let's see, we've got our PRD going. We've got Core is going to be our ecosystem expert. it just so happens like I may or may not have built an Apple expert agent before in class, and I'm a millennial, so like I'm extra on using emojis and like fun names here for these agents. And Claude, all on its own, came up with Core. I was like, that's a freaking good name. So like anytime I build an Apple expert, that's what I'm doing here. So let's see. All right.
This was not coordinated, folks. He just asked me who to build it for. We
Yeah, no, we just were riffing on this.
so many agents that he had already built this.
Yeah, it was either this or we were joking about Hattie B's chicken before we got rolling today. I was like, we can build it for that too. Yeah. So let's see, we're going to build Core out here. This is the research and intelligence like expert agent. It's given its primary function, who the target user is, which is important here. We want it to remember because the inputs that this agent is going to get is like, for us, we're going to come up with like a synthetic email that like an Apple, might receive on the regular. They might get like more data points as well as an input. But if you're not very clear and specific on this of what are the inputs, who is the intended audience, what are the output requirements, then this agent will have kind of role mix up and start trying to actually write an email back to that end user. And that's not what we want at all. So like getting this clarity is extremely important here. All right,
And
so
for people who don't understand, why is it important to have multiple agents and separate these agents in this way?
yeah, well, in this example, we learn in building customer service email flows and just our own experience. Like I always, for me, it's easy to learn things in stories and to like visualize this. So when we built a version of this out for my family's company called Growers Solution, they sell like gardening supplies and greenhouses. And when they get customer service emails coming in, the people team, there's like different tiers of customer support and like different specializations in there. They have their own internal knowledge bases and things. But then just like in every business, literally every business that we have worked with, they're no exception. There's tribal and tacit knowledge through all different areas of domain expertise. And so their people team have to go and like tap other folks on the team to get the right answers because they might not know. So like they might get a question that's like really complicated about irrigation or something, and there's a few people on the team that really specialize in that. So they have to go ask those people the question and then bring it back after they've gone on this like fact-finding mission to respond to the customer. And the funny thing about this in real life is that the real life experts typically are not the same people that you want answering the customer service emails. They don't always like talk in an empathetic way. Not that they're like harsh. It's just they're experts, and to distill that down in a way that like lands at the level that the customer is trying to talk at, it doesn't always resonate there. So that's like one really clear example of we want our expert to be focused in different areas of domain expertise, and then hand that off to an agent that specializes in taking that, translating it, and being on brand. And like having very separate roles. And from a agent, like a technical point of view also, if you try and have like one more generalized do-it-all agent, it's more difficult. When you get into things like temperature and system parameters and things like that, you might want to have a bit of a higher temperature so that when your email agent writes a response, it's much more like it feels human or feels authentic. And if you have an expert agent, that temperature might be like much lower, maybe even zero. It's like much more deterministic in its response. And if you had that bundled into one and had that temperature turned down really low, it could come across like really rigid. And also if you turn the temperature higher to break that rigidness out of it, then it's going to maybe not follow your instructions quite as closely and can have hallucinations or not do every step that you're asking it to do. So it's really important to have this like separation, and that's why multi-agent teams and then having them work together is again, it's like a key thing in this space that we're seeing.
You just packed thousands of dollars of lessons into 60 seconds. So just to re-emphasize for folks, you can almost think about it as who would be the different people in a company. as we just analogized. Like there's the expert, there's the customer service expert. They have different skills. One is really good at the tech, one is really good at talking to people. You can think about it the same way with agents. And with agents technically in particular, if you give them too many things to do, they're not going to perform as well. And so that's why it's important to build a multi-agent system to actually separate these things out and to use this technical term that some people might not be familiar with. In fact, I'm not totally 100% sure I understand it, temperature. Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Oh yeah, I have a super fun analogy. So I have young kids, and we watch a lot of Disney and Pixar movies and stuff. So Toy Story, I've seen it a ton. And if you think about like the claw machine, like the little aliens that are in there, and it's like coming down like the claw, okay? So imagine that temperature is like this icy peak inside of a claw machine. And when the temperature is dialed all the way up, because it's different from model to model, but generally it's on a scale of 0 to 1 or 0 to 2. And when the temperature is dialed up, so that it is when it's dialed down to 0, you could think like it's cold, and this like icy peak is what temperature is like. So when the claw comes down, which is the LLM coming to try and predict what is the next most probable token that needs to come in the response, it's very deterministic. It's going to pick off the top of this peak or the pile, basically. And when you turn that temperature up to 1, that's when like the peak melts down. And so when the claw comes down, it's easier for it to grab from multiple spots off of the peak or off of the pile. And what you're doing when you turn the temperature up or down to like, I'll switch into tech pro here for a minute, is that you're changing the shape of the probability distribution curve. So that means that you dial it up, it's going to be much more creative. It has more options for tokens that it can pick from. When you take it down to 0 or take it down to freezing, it's much more rigid, and it's only going to pick off the peak there. So like there's different instances when you would want to have a temperature like up or down, and how that looks like too. This is one of the ways it was explained to me like early on, is that when temperature equals 0 and you say the sky is, and then you leave it blank and have it complete that sentence, it might say the sky is blue, the sky is clear, like something like that. Very like predictable, right? When you take it all the way up to 1, it might say the sky is full of fluffy clouds and rainbows, or something like extremely creative in that way, because it has more tokens to go and choose from, essentially. It's like the randomness is increased there. All right, so let's get our agents working here in the background again. So I'm going to kick up Gigawatt. So, all right, Gigawatt, this is excellent. Now we are ready to kick over into prompt engineering mode. I'm going to vibe code this a little bit, and for the sake of time, I'll admit I didn't fully read your PRD, but I trust you. So what we're going to do is you're going to draft the V1 version of system instructions in the way that you've been trained. This is going to be in the XML output. You're going to include at least, but definitely not limited to, these top 5 level XML sections that are going to be role, context, instructions, criteria, and examples. But for the examples section, since this is the first version, I don't want you to do traditional short prompt examples. Instead, I would rather you get a little bit more meta about it. Think about different scenarios that this agent might encounter, and then what are the steps that it might go through to achieve the intended goal. So it's not just a direct, like, here's an input, here's an output type short prompt example. Be much more descriptive, and let's just give it, let's say, 2 different scenarios in the example section to begin with. All right, take a deep breath, proceed in a step-by-step manner, and go get them, Slugger. Let's see what you got.
Today's episode is brought to you by the experimentation platform Chameleon. 9 out of 10 companies that see themselves as industry leaders and expect to grow this year say experimentation is critical to their business. But most companies still fail at it. Why? Because most experiments require too much developer involvement. Chameleon handles experimentation differently. It enables product and growth teams to create and test prototypes in minutes with prompt-based experimentation. You describe what you want, Chameleon builds a variation of your web page, lets you target a cohort of users, choose KPIs, and runs the experiment for you. Prompt-based experimentation makes what used to take days of developer time turn into minutes. Try prompt-based experimentation on your own web apps. Visit chameleon.com/prompt to join the waitlist. That's KAMELEOON.com/prompt. Today's episode is brought to you by the AI PM certification on Maven. Run by Mikdad Jaffer, who is a product leader at OpenAI, this is not your typical course. It's 8 weeks of live, cohort-based learning with the leader at one of the top companies in tech. As you know by now, the future of PM is AI, and this certificate will give you the learnings, plus the hardware, to show you are ready for an AI PM role. I myself took the course and recommend it. Put on by the amazing team at product faculty, including Mo Ali and Pavel Hearn, it's worth it. Former students come from companies like OpenAI, Shopify, Stripe, Google, and Meta. The best part, your company can probably cover the cost. So, if you want to get $550 off, use my code Aakash550C7. That's AAKASH 550C7 and head to maven.com/product-faculty. That's maven.com/PRODUCT-FACULTY.
I'm saying a lot of the stuff here in the user prompt, which is like what we just sent through, that is already in the system instructions. But because the system instructions are generally like extremely long, I find that it's like helpful to like re-inform them, like help remind the agent or remind Gigawatt like what I want it to do on certain key things. And then because shock prompts are like, most of the instructions are telling it how and or what to do, and the instructions around that. But the shock prompts are showing it how to go and do that. And one thing that you'll find that if you include shock prompt examples in there, and they're not really what you want it to be, if it's not a good representation of that, it kind of muddies the whole water. And like the outputs you're going to get are not going to match your expectations. It can cause it to mess up, basically. So that's why I have, like when I'm first building it, like be much more like meta in that way instead of a direct input and output. And then the like ending part here, I say go get 'em slugger a lot, and it started as a joke, and then I just like do it all the time. That actually comes from AI research though. So there's a technique called emotion prompting. And this is really interesting. Like I love like research. So like you find that in sociology and psychology, a lot of the information that we see there has led to some of the breakthroughs in LLMs and techniques that you use. So when you gaslight or give like positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement to a person, they will actually do better. And it turns out that that's true in LLMs too. But we always say like, be positive. These things have pretty good memory now. Probably we're working towards like perfect recall in everything eventually. And they're going to have robot bodies soon. So be nice and friendly to your AI. So I'm always going on like the positive side of like, boost them up a little bit, and they will actually do better at the job. It's been proven. So it sounds goofy, but it works. All right, here. So Gigawatt is gone through its sequential thinking, and you can see like this is spinning up. It has a couple of internal thought traces, and then we could even like go in and read what it's doing here. It's like seeing its own inside its head, and then it started to write the system instructions here. All right, cool. So we can see it's got the, I'm scrolling through it quick here. It's got the role section, context. There's even subsections within context here. So the role is basically like the job description for the agent. Context is all the background information and nuances around that of like, where is it working? Who is it working for? Who is it working with? Like all sorts of different kinds of details can go in there. Instructions is exactly what you might think, like the step-by-step instructions you want the agent to follow each time it does its job. Criteria, once we get down here to that, and it wrote in and out of a code block, which is okay. Criteria down here, these are kind of like the guardrails that you're going to put around it. These can both like be like do's and do nots. So like do not use emojis in your output, or always have an empathetic tone when you print an output. Like you can make these up, whatever you want these rules to be. And then the example section down here is the shock prompt examples. So when I do this, Gigawatt's pretty good. It's gonna probably have a set, I would say like a B set of instructions right now if we're gonna grade it. And like that's okay, but I have like figured out that by using this process called meta prompting, which this is like a prompt I have stored right here, is that it basically that you're having Gigawatt review its own work, go section by section, give it a quantitative score and qualitative reasoning around that, and give, if they exist, give suggested areas of improvement. And then another thing I have it do in this as well is I give it these ideas of different techniques and frameworks that I use, such as like meta prompting, step back prompting, AI agent self-review, chain of thought, chain of density, like just a few different things to give Gigawatt inspiration. And because it's connected to Perplexity and EXA, it can go out on the internet and think about, hey, what kind of agent am I building? What are the latest breakthroughs in AI? I can go and research that. What if that makes sense to incorporate into this agent? And it will come back here in a minute with those like suggestions. So you can see it's done like multiple Perplexity searches here. It might decide to go use EXA. It might think about what it found in a search before it ever like responds back to us. But this process, it basically is like, we've got this set of B instructions. After the evaluation, we're going to have it do it again. And we generally go to like an A minus territory. And that's generally good enough for us to start, let's go take it and start testing it and doing what we call observational evals on it. Like, go see if this thing's any good and working like we hope it will. All right.
Love this. And you mentioned the phrase shot prompting. If people don't know that, I believe that's when you're giving various examples within the prompt itself, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So this could be, let's come up here and look and see what even Gigawatt wrote. So here's one of the examples it came up with. The scenario is product information research with evolving information. I'm trying to decide between the iPhone Pro and the iPhone 17 Air because we all need a thinner iPhone. So like what's the main differences and which one would be better for photography? I heard there might be some new camera features, but I'm not sure what's current.
I actually have this question. So I love how like it was able to pick something that people would really ask.
Yeah, like really ask, and then like it's current too because it went out in real time to find like what's the latest kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
And so like the example is showing it what should core go do. It's saying that do the initial analysis, go research the RAG database, think about your own system knowledge, go out on the internet and research and use chain of verification for that, like synthesize and generate your output, and then give that to the next agent. So it's like walking it through, like we've told you what you should do in the system instructions, but this is showing you like how do you actually go walk that out in a practical way. Yeah, cool. So Gigawatt's still thinking here while it's doing that. Let's go check on deep research. Sweet. So this one is done. I'm going to grab this and export this just as a document really quickly. Cool. There's one. Claude is like, it's one of my favorite deep research tools because it looks at so many sources. It will literally go look at thousands of websites to do this work, which is like, we would never have time to go do that, especially in this short of time. But for some reason, it's like goofing up right here, right now. I think it's because it's trying to call additional like tools I have connected to it, like Canva and stuff, and I don't want it to do that right now. So let's see, give it one more shot here.
I haven't actually seen these connectors, and I'm a pretty heavy Claude user. What are those?
It's basically like they've made it easier to kind of connect in MCPs. So if you come over here to, I think you have to do it on Claude Desktop initially. I could totally be wrong on this. But if you come over here and you go to your settings, I think is where you're doing it at initially. Right here, connectors is like where you can come in and either set up your own custom ones that are, basically like MCP tools, or they've made it easier with some like out of the box ones.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's just like, and an MCP is like, for people that don't know, is Model Context Protocol. That is before this came out, it's like a framework that they've used. When people would need to go and use a tool, like if you wanted to connect an agent to Gmail, let's say, you'd have to do all these different API calls, and that's like very scary. Most people aren't going to do that. But because we know that context, like bringing relevant information back to an agent is so powerful, having these tools is part of what makes an agent an agent. And so Anthropic, who makes Claude, came up with MCPs, and they've really simplified that process and maybe even democratized it is a better word, so that more people can connect more tools to their agents, and it just makes them so much more useful. Let's see. Yeah. All right, so it's finally kicked off its research. We'll let that one finish. Perplexity did its other research. So this one looked at 119 different websites and sources to pull this info in. I'm gonna export that as a doc as well. And again, we're having to scatter around here. This is the import over here in Cassidy, and it pulled in, it had a few pages that errored out. Let me click that, we'll let it retry them just in case while we have time. And now if we come back out here to my main file, like here's the website, it's pulled in this many pages already. And if we go add, I'm just gonna make a new folder to chuck all this stuff into one spot. Apple Knowledge, save it. Let's pull this into here. And then now I can also add those deep research documents that we just did with Perplexity to throw them into this RAG database, or like you could think of this as an AI second brain system essentially. So now all of that's gonna live in its head. So that's uploading, here we go. So now back over here in Typing Mind, and I'm jumping around, so I'm trying to make sure we make this easy for folks to follow along. Is Gigawatt just finished up its self-review, where it was evaluating its work and saying what it did well and where it could do better. And so there's a section by section analysis here. You can see it's pretty, we don't want it to be biased or have an ego towards its own work. And it even kind of says that in the prompt that we gave it, saying that our whole goal is that we make the best possible agent for this specific role. And it's giving itself a 78 out of 100. It's giving its reasoning as to why it gave it that grade and then how it could improve it. 82 here. So it's as you can see, we're doing okay, but we're C territory even right now. So we need to get that grade up for sure. We're A students around here. And let's see. So overall, we got a 77 out of 100. So we've got some big gaps that we need to fill. And it's giving basically itself its own instructions on how we could do this better. And so now what I'm going to do is I have another prompt that is, let's see here, write the improved version. Let's adjust this. So here we go. This is where
this use of saved prompts. This is huge.
Speeds it up. Yeah, it takes a while to get them dialed in, the way that you want them. But once you have them done, pulling them in from a prompt library is key. Let's see. So today is, what is today? The 24th of September. So I'm putting this in because now it's going to write in some metadata into the head tag area of the system instructions, and even incorporate a change log in there. So let's go ahead and do this. It's basically telling it, write the complete new updated set of system instructions. This should be additive and not reductive, because if you just let it go out and do its thing, then it might wholesale rewrite the system instructions. Instead, it's you've already got a good foundation. Use what you recognize about what was working and what wasn't, and go improve upon that without just completely changing everything. And that's what we're seeing here. All right, and it's also telling it too, because this happens or can happen, is that if you happen to cut off before you complete writing this set of system instructions, know that I'll have you pick up in a follow-up message. And I tell it that ahead of time, because if you don't, then the model can kind of try and write to optimize for its context output window to an extent. It'll try and make it more concise. And I don't want that. Like I want it to be extremely descriptive in here, as you can see. Like these generally, like once you do this next lap or this next version, the system instructions kind of balloon up in size, and it's not to write them longer for the sake of writing them longer. It's because this is like very key information that we want to make sure that this agent gets like every time it goes to do a task. And that's why we're like taking extra care in the system instructions. So, all right, cool. So while this is happening, again, I'm going to come over here and let's do get this ready to put this agent into production. So I'm going to call this like core, we'll call it like the podcast edition.
And we're back in Cassidy.
Yeah, back in Cassidy. Yes, thank you. Do you have a preference? Like, I'll let you choose. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter. I would suggest like probably choosing one of the Ferrari models. But what do you want to run this on? Do you want to do it like GPT-5, or we have any of the Claude models, or even
Maybe just tell us a little bit more about how you would think through the choice on model choice. I feel like everyone's always asking me about that.
Yeah. Same. Like, I think that a lot of it comes down to like personal preference and taste. It's literally, are you like an Apple or a PC person to some extent, and then there's also like really clear reasons when you might choose one model over another. All of the leading models from pretty much all of the big providers are at a point right now that they're extremely good at pretty much most tasks that most people are going to have them do. So the good news is that like we're rich with intelligence now.
Yeah.
So like picking GPT-5 versus like Sonnet or Opus or even Gemini Pro, like the new Pro. I mean, you could argue that you could really switch them out, and that's even what we teach, is that you want to be somewhat model agnostic, because when you get into production, if Anthropic has a new release and their API is running a bit glitchy, but you have agents in production, like glitchiness is not acceptable. We need to like be able to like pull the plug on it running on an Anthropic model and plug it into GPT-5 or whatever it is, so that we're not losing anything. There's redundancy there. But it could be things like speed. Speed is a big deal. If you need reasoning, like for a model to like think through something, using one of the reasoning models is a big deal. If latency matters, using something like a Mini, a Nano, a Haiku, those are faster and cheaper, but not as capable necessarily. Yeah, and then like context window is the other thing. This is like the amount of short-term memory that an agent has, like how much space can it hold in its head. And 1 million and 2 million is like Google was kind of the first one to go into that territory. Anthropic's at 1 million now with Claude Sonnet. GPT-5 is still at like 400K. I suspect they're going to be at 1 million or maybe further than that like soon. So let's just for now, let's go GPT-5 and we'll go high thinking. Let's just make it really good here. I've got the tokens. So this is the context window. I'm turning this all the way up so it can have the most information possible. I'm going to go ahead and toggle this on. This basically is turning on the RAG knowledge base. So it's the data that we've been populating in here. And I'm gonna select this folder. So like everything we chuck in that folder, it will have access to. And because I'm saying always search, it's like forcing the agent to go look into that folder every time to see if there's anything that will help it. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but we're making it go look there. And then let me save this. And the last tool or two tools I'm going to turn on here are going to be data analysis and web search. Data analysis allows it to use like Python. It's like code interpreter basically. And web search is allowing it to go out on the internet and research things. So I'm going to give it those tools as well. And let's go see, I think Gigawatt finished over here. I heard the Easy Bake Oven timer go off. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. All right, yeah, so it finished the whole thing. So I'm going to grab this whole set of instructions, go back into Cassidy now to actually put it into production. And let me go to the very bottom because it had some notation here at the bottom that isn't a part of the instruction. So I'm just going to delete that out.
Yep.
And I think that
We
is,
have that clean XML instruction.
yep, you got it. So it's got the tags in there exactly like we want. It's using it per the way that I've like trained it to do this. It's got the new and upgraded enhanced version of the system instructions in here. And we're at 7,000 tokens right now. Actually less than that, because let me delete this off the other like commentary here at the beginning. So approximately like 7,000 tokens for just the system instructions. Not bad. Let's see. So now we could go ahead and open this one in chat and let's test it out. So like, what was the question you wanted to ask it? In fact, I'll hold down my key and you just talk and it'll transcribe it into it.
Should I get a iPad or iPhone Air or iPhone Pro? I'm trying to weigh battery and photo quality.
Love it. The battery's the thing I want to know about. I watched their like keynote address or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know. They were pushing that add-on battery pretty hard right out of the gate. So we'll see. It looks cool though.
Exactly. It looks so cool, but I'm worried that it won't have a good battery life. So let's see if the agent can help us address that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's going to go through here and look at this. And while this is happening, we're going to go do one more thing here. I'm going to go grab, let me come over here. Where's it at? I think I jumped off of it. Here it is, this one. I'm grabbing example system instructions of another You've Got Mail agent. And this is our customer service agent. So we built the expert. Now we're going to really quickly build an email agent. And examples are everything. So when I can come back over here into typing mine in that exact same thread and tell it that like here are some system instructions for a completely different email agent to use as like inspiration and what good could look like, knowing how we're going to be using it here, draft the V1 version of the Apple email agent and come up with a fun name for it kind of thing. So all right, Gigawatt, this is awesome. We have the core agent deployed in Cassidy, and we're testing that out right now. I've now given you an attached copy of system instructions for a different You've Got Mail agent, which is our customer service email agent. But this one is made for Hattie B's. It's a hot chicken joint in Nashville. So look at this for inspiration. On what a good customer service email agent looks like. Think on this deeply and think about what would you need to change and update and embody so that it sounds on point and matching the culture, the vibe, the brand tone and voice for Apple. You're also going to need to come up with a fun name to go along with the core agent for this You've Got Mail agent for Apple. It should be like a 1 or 2 name that feels very on brand and authentic to what it's going to be doing here. So don't do any prompt engineering yet. Review all this, reflect on it, and then come back to me and let me know where you land on it. This is a brainstorming and alignment phase again, just with this new agent. Okay, so we're going to let Gigawatt again work in the background, and let's pop back over here to, let's see here, our iPhone question. Awesome. Well, this is not going to be very pretty for us to look at, so I'll have it like here in a minute because it returned it in JSON, like what I mentioned earlier.
Which is what we wanted.
Yeah, it's exactly what we wanted. That's what we want it to do, inter-agent communication. It's good. But now I'm just going to be like, hey, Core, we're running evals on you right now, and you did perfect. You output your work into a JSON, but we're reviewing this. Can you convert this into Markdown so it's much prettier for us to come in, read it, and review it and see how it looks? Okay, so we're just going to let it go through and like recreate this for us in a way that's easier to look at. And down here we can see, this is like what's powerful about using a RAG system, or even having, like even if it researches on the internet, it cites its sources. So if we ever wanted to come back in here when we're doing evals to see, well, where the heck did it even get this information or arrive at this outcome, we can fact check it in this way by like, it's citing this website that it found, or what came out of the knowledge base that it went and read that in documentation internally, like whatever it might be. All right, there was the oven again. So let's come back over here into typing mine again. Sage, I don't like Sage. This is like a generic, yeah, we can do better than that. All right, so let's see. Hattie B's agent is good. Masterclass, yep, cool. I think Gigawatt's like gaslighting me here. Let's see. Sage, one word. Okay, so clean apple aesthetic, like a genius bar expert, natural organic, loves nature metaphors. I don't know about that, but sophisticated and approachable. Okay, so like we're just gonna kind of, again, for the sake of time, rock with this to some extent, because you can see Hattie B's, it has sophisticated simplicity versus playful irreverence. Hattie B's brand voice, they're Southern, so they say like y'all and use like these really kind of funny chicken puns. And instead, like Apple's gonna be, we need to take that idea and translate it for them.
Yep.
If we were doing this for real, we have a whole process to do brand voice and communication analysis, and we even have like workflows for that. But we're just going to do this quickly now and just roll with it. So, all right, Gigawatt, this looks awesome. Now that we have an idea, I think first of all, Sage, no, let's not do that. That's not a good name. Think more Apple branding, the way that they do it, something that feels on point for an email agent in that space. Again, it's a one-word name. Like, look at Core as an example. Core is an excellent name for being on brand for Apple. Think of that for this set and setting as well. With that in mind, use sequential thinking. Use your EXA tool to research anything else that you feel that you need to, whether it's like brand guides, brand voice, styles out on the internet, and then come back and draft the V1 set of system instructions. Again, remember to print them in XML. Use the role, context, instructions, criteria, and examples. Do the same sort of shop prompt examples that I had you do with the previous expert agent, where it's much more meta. Let's do 2 different scenarios there. So it's not the traditional, here's an input, here's an output. It's like walking through what it should be doing and showing it that through that scenario. And with all of that in mind, that's a laundry list of tasks. Work through them one by one. Take a deep breath and show us why you're a savant at prompt engineering. Go get them, Slugger. All right, let's see what we get here. So that one's going to be working. Now let's go back to Cassidy. And like, language matters too. I use that phrase savant. I use that frequently when I'm prompt engineering because, they're large language models and the words that you choose have power and meaning and shape the quality of the agent build that you're doing. So you want to be thoughtful when you're doing that as well. So let's come up here. So it's saying decision guide, iPhone Air versus iPhone 17. Here's the summary. If photography is your top priority, iPhone 17 Pro is it because it's got the Pro Fusion plus the ultra wide telephoto and the optical zoom. Like built in, it's got 39 hours of video playback. Thinnest phone with a strong main camera, 48 megapixel main camera, no ultra wide telephoto, up to 27 hours. So it's like retrieved all this information, put it into a pretty good breakdown here. I don't know, is this helping your decision making process yet? We'll see what.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm seeing, 27 hours video play. Maybe the iPad or the iPhone Air is good enough for my battery needs. Similar megapixels. I already own 3 fancy cameras for the other stuff, so yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so now we can see all of this. Like, it's looking good, and ultimately, like, what we really wanted to see was this JSON response up here. So I'm going to go ahead and queue up some messages. So let's go eval and improve. I'm going to queue that, and then I'm going to go write the improved version. Let's see here. Take this off so I can have these messages like pending so it can continue working more in the background for us here.
Oh, wow. I've never done that. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's helpful for speed for sure. Like 9, 24, 25. Let's queue that up again. Cool. So those are just like waiting in the wings. And
Wow, that would save me so much time. Just queuing things. That's great.
yeah, it's little wins in this stuff that you just kind of figure out. Here we go. So like here is that Claude research finally finished. So it did 394 sources, which is actually kind of low for it. It normally is going up above 1,000 in general now, but it took 10 minutes to finish that research. Deep research is such a powerful tool that I think more people should know about and use because yeah, it's such a good way to gather info that is valuable not only like in the build, but to curate info for your knowledge base, like for your second brain, either for yourself or for your agents quickly. Uh,
Yeah.
it's so amazing. Um, all right, so I've got that in here now, and if
Hypothetical question. Let's say you're building a RAG database here and you have a bunch of not searchable information, but let's say you have like 2 gigabytes of enterprise documents. How would you build that in this case?
yeah, that's a whole like it depends kind of decision tree. Because you can use something like unstructured.io as like a platform that can go through and what's called like vectorize and turn the documents into embeddings and like chunks that are stored in a vector database. And especially with things like PDFs or documents that might have things in it that are also not text, that might be visual. This is where, like for that specifically, something like Gemini Flash is really good at that. It's extremely inexpensive to basically do OCR now, and not only extract the text that's on the page and put it into a format that's better to then go and like turn it into the vector store, but it can look at the visuals and you can have a flow set up where it actually extracts and describes that and turns it into the vector store data as well, so it's actually searchable. The thing though, like RAG is extremely powerful and potent, but there's also limitations to it. Like things can change and update. Like a really easy example is that in our classes, we like when we first started teaching our early cohorts, they were on certain days of the week and certain times of the day, like all that kind of stuff. And we have an agent that lives in Slack in our community called the professor. And so students can go and ask it a question and say like, hey, I don't have my calendar in front of me. Like, when's the next foundations class? I'm in cohort 12, like whatever it is. And it would go and look into the RAG system, but because we're like adding all of this information and we're not going to take the time to go in and like clean out all of this historical data because that would take forever and it's not a job you want to go do. The professor might not bring back the best information because the more you add into a RAG system, it's powerful, but it can also kind of degrade the retrieval of it, like the quality of the retrieval, because there's just so much information for it to be looking through. And so the way that we're thinking about trying to solve that more is not only the structure that you put into your RAG and having like, we've been working on this concept called the Cairns method. It's like a 3 kind of tier system in there. And even more so now, it's agentic RAG. So it's not just connecting it to a database like this, a RAG database. It's connecting it to Graph RAG, which holds much more like relational information in there, and it updates it as well. So that could be like Graph RAG, graffiti, things like that. So it would go in and keep up to date in that other data store that, hey, cohort 12 is now on Mondays and Fridays from this time to this time. And so the agent's connected to both of those data stores. And also even like MCPs are another tool that you can connect for this. So it gives it more information and like ways of connecting the dots in that information so that it gets a better quality response outside of just RAG itself. So yeah.
Amazing. So much value in that one response. Awesome.
Yeah, no worries. All right, Gigawatt's still working. Even if we tell it to type like the wind, it'll try. So what's happened, like coming back over here into Typing Mind here, it has thought through what I had to go out and write the V1 instructions. It used EXA, which is like an agentic web search tool. So it did research more on brand voice guidelines and customer service communication examples, like this kind of stuff. So it's going to find like real world shop prompt examples, bringing it back, writing the V1 version. It's probably going to be okay, but not great. And then let's see, it started its next process now of it's like reviewing this. And let's see what we got here. It's got an 82, 85. So we're a little bit better. We're not scoring in the 70s here. We're up in the 80s at least. Well, there's a couple 70s. We can do better. And like coming down here at the very end, let's see. And it's also doing that research into other areas like frameworks or techniques that it could be using for this specific agent. One of them is like
One huge takeaway for me from watching you build these is how much care you're putting into the system prompt. You know, you had an amazing system prompt to begin with. You had an amazing agent creating it, but you're having that agent review its own work and iterate. And most people probably skip that step.
Yeah, I would say so. Like Sarah and I dub it as like the founder's level of service. And for me, what that means is, you know, when you first start a business and it's just you, or like you and a co-founder, whatever that is, you're doing everything and you're putting your heart and soul into it because it's your baby, right? So it's that level of care that we try and put into pretty much everything that we do. And even when we're doing this for clients, like outside of class, our whole discovery process, which that's a whole nother topic we could talk about, is very intensive so that we can temporarily become experts in their business and in their culture and feel like we're like plugged into their team so that we can then take that knowledge and come over here and work with Gigawatt to do this for them like in real time. And I think that's the skill set more people need to learn. That's it's incredibly important. That's how I think you build a system that works versus one that is uninformed and not aligned with like what your intentions or your client's intentions are. And this, like all of these little steps matter. So yeah, our community has dubbed this weaponized OCD as well. So it's fun. Yeah. Let's see here. So we've got, it went with Echo. Okay, Echo is not terrible. I'm not going to like razz Gigawatt on its naming convention. It could do better. But so we've got Echo is what it's dubbed the customer service email. You can see it's got version information in here, a quick change log, and then it's printed out the whole new version of system instructions. Let's just skip to the end and see if it's, nope, still writing. So while it's doing this, let me come up here and I'm going to grab just like, let's go Echo V2, copy. We're going to pop back over here into, let's just go here. So let's go assistance, create a new one. We'll go ahead and get this ready for it to.
Yep, the placeholder for a new agent.
You got it. Yep. So this is going to be Apple customer service demo. And for this one, let's see, we did GPT-5 high thinking. So let's be multi-model here. Let's either go Anthropic or Gemini. Like, honestly, I could go either way. Do you have a preference you want to see happen here?
We've been doing a lot of Anthropic, so let's try Gemini. Let's give them some shine.
Let's do it. I love it. So here's Gemini 2.5. Yeah, I freaking, all these models are so good. Like, we are blessed with choices now. The Flash model and the Pro model are so good. Flash is kind of like this weird kind of in-between model. It's not quite like the front runner, and it's not as, I don't want to say like low quality because it makes it sound like it's bad, but not as the tier that Mini and like Haiku are at. It's like kind of in between those two, in my opinion. Okay, so here we go.
And if you're productionizing, it's like crazy cheap.
Yeah. Oh my God. People should go and look into how much it costs to like process documents, like what I said. Like basically do what you would pay for OCR, but now you can use Flash for that even. Holy smokes, it's so much cheaper. It's like literally, I've done the math on it. It was like hundreds or thousands of pages for, we're talking about like $1 or something. It's crazy cheap.
Crazy.
Yeah, let's see here. So save this. Let's give it tools here. What is not saving? Why is it not saving? Oh, it cleared the instructions. Okay. I'm just going to put something in here.
We'll
Placeholder.
update that in a second.
Yeah, we'll give it its brain here in a minute. So I'm going to connect those here as well. Save it. And Gigawatt, you done yet? Ah, it cut off. All right, here we go. So here we all right. You, why am I typing? You were cut off. Please pick up where you stopped and continue on to complete the system instructions. Thank you. It's pretty close, so it's in the criteria section. This is what I was saying, like a lot of the time, the system instructions can kind of bloat up a little bit, and that's not a bad thing. Depending on, like, we'll know for sure when we test it, right? But I find that the more detail, the richness that you put into this process, the better the outcome that you're going to get. So
Some people are worried about like context rot as you add more tokens, but your practical experience shows go longer.
yes, and there's like good Lord, yes, and there's like techniques to help with that of like reminding it. Like if we were going to go put this into a workflow and we're writing the user prompts for different stages of this workflow, and we can even go like see what something like that looks like while we're waiting on this to cook. We would remind it in the user prompt of like the key things we want it to remember. Just kind of like how you might even refresh a person's memory, because we've given it so much detail. It's not that it's hallucinating or dropping context, it's that there's so much context in there. We need to kind of steer it to like what are the most important key things it always needs to keep in mind. And you can do that on the user prompt side of things. So yeah, let's go look and see if this is done, and we'll connect it. Still running. All right, so while that's running, do you want to go take a look and see like what one of these systems could look like once we get past the agent creation, we actually go put it into a workflow? Would that be good? Like here?
Or I think we're almost there with this one.
Oh yeah, it is. Okay, yeah, there we go. It just finished. Gigawatt finished up. You never know. Sometimes we're having to fill time with it. So here we go. Echo. I'm going to give myself some space here so I can see where it cut off. Let me come back up here. Escalation triggers. Right here's where it is. So I'm going to delete this out. Hit save. All right, cool. So now we've appended the two different sections here. This one ended up coming in at 8,900 tokens. So again, like very modest. It's not going to cost a ton of money to use this, and they're not so long that you really are in the range of needing to worry about like context rot, like you said. Not yet. I think that once you get deeper into a chat, maybe that would matter, but I don't think here. So let's go ahead and we're just going to leave your message in here from before. I'm going to leave this response back from JSON, and I'm going to come in here and see if I can just edit this and switch agents and change the prompt here. So let's do this. Let's switch this over to core the email agent. Or no, it was Echo. I'm sorry. Echo is the name of it. Here's Echo, and let's tell it, hey Echo, I want you to review the work that Core just did, think on it deeply, and then generate the response back to the end user, please. Thank you. Okay, so let's save this. There we go. And so now we're like manually testing this and doing what we call observational evals. This is where we're actually just coming and testing this thing, recognizing in production, and what we would really do is like we would test this to a bunch of different potential scenarios and like inputs and things like that to see how these two react together before we go put them into a workflow, because we need to like see if we need to make some changes here first before we move on. So we had that response on the question. Echo has looked through this. This is what I was talking about with the XML tags. So Anthropic's Claude models are actually trained on XML. And so if you use certain tags like think, answer, and scratchpad, just as an example, it forces the model to do certain things at different instances. We're running this on Gemini 2.5, and so any of the like new models from OpenAI or Google, they aren't trained on XML, but they now have been trained in their building of that. Anthropic can do that, and it essentially kind of knows what I'm expecting it to do here, and it's trying to emulate that. So it's not the function of how it's doing it is different, like here in this thinking tag, but it's trying to do a very similar thing. So it's thinking through, basically, given this scenario, what do I need to do to answer this? It's then like reasoning on that. It will then switch into scratchpad mode, which is what it's done here. Scratchpad is where it's like essentially like writing a first draft. So this is like meta prompting right in line right here of like, I'm thinking about what the information I have, who am I talking to, what's the info that I found in my knowledge store or that my expert agent gave me. Given all that, like just like a person would like jot down notes or do a first draft of it, then think about revising that, which it's done here, then go out and write the complete and total finalized answer, which is what it should do down here at the bottom somewhere. And it's wrapped it in an answer tag. The reason we're also using these tags in the output is because we can parse that out when we go put that into production. So like we don't want the end user to see all this crap, but if we wanted to parse out the subject and map that to a subject line, parse out the actual email body and map that back to the wherever we want that to land, because we have it in these little containers, it makes that easier to do. So let's see what this sounds like coming back. We don't have a lot of information. This is like a pretty short email message in, but so hey there, that's an excellent question. Choosing between these powerful devices is all about finding the perfect partner for your creative life. And it's great that you're focusing on the photo quality and battery life. Let's break this down so you can feel confident in your choice. For the photographer, uncompromising quality versus beautiful simplicity. When it comes to photography, your best camera is the one you have with you. Here's how these devices empower your creativity differently. And then it's going to explain that here. For all day power, it's like walking through that. It feels like on brand as best as we could get it quickly for Apple.
Yeah.
This is where we are going to recognize like, this is a choice for the Apple team. Like, would we write an email like this? Because if we were working with a client, this is like a client feedback checkpoint where we want them to like review this with us and say, like, what do you like about this? How might you have done this differently? Does this feel authentically like you all and the brand that you're wanting to represent? Like these kinds of questions. And that feedback that they give us, we directly incorporate into the next iteration of this thing so that we're further like honing it in on what they think is good, like based off of their criteria. And that's also helping us gauge when we set up evals, what are the most important things for them for these particular tasks that we need to be reviewing when we go into like full systematic evals in production as well. So, I mean, this thing like printed for days here, and it did a pretty solid job just in the email itself, I would say. And even if we wanted to come in and critique this, like maybe the team at Apple's like, you know, we really wouldn't use bullet points in an email response. Let's just say it's that. And we would make this like much more conversational. It's also more verbose than what we want it to be. Like we would write it in a more concise manner. Like these are all data points that we can then come back in and make adjustments on to dial this in further. But like really quickly and under like what has it been now? Like an hour and a half, like we've been able to build 2 agents that after some testing here, we could put them into a workflow and connect them to their tech stack and then have them into a production type environment very quickly. So
what would that look like if we were to start to go on that path?
Yeah, well, there's like several steps, but a no-code tool like Cassidy makes it pretty simple for that. An example of this, and there's a lot of this comes in like taste as well of what would the Apple team, how would they want to interact with this? The first thing I would say is we would never put it into production without some sort of a human in the loop checkpoint. That's very irresponsible. And actually in live production, you have no idea the types of inputs that you might get in a system. Like someone might say something that Apple doesn't want to respond to, or there could be a myriad of different things. And so it's very important to have an intentional human in the loop checkpoint put in place somewhere. And you can begin to, once you have it in production, add more autonomy into the system, where you then know for these certain use cases, we can kind of auto send it. And if not, it still needs a human to review it before we send it on its way. But it speeds it up and can do them in batches. So here, this is a workflow in Cassidy that is also an email workflow. And what's happening is we set this up to work with Slack as well, because this was our intended, that's where we wanted to work with our email agent at. And so what happens is we would connect this upstream with something like you can even do it now natively in Cassidy too, but before you couldn't. So we would use something like Zapier or Make or something, that when a new email comes in, and if you're for instance using Google and it's tagged a certain way, then it would then trigger this workflow to start running. And we would get their message, their name, the date of the email, the subject, and the Gmail thread ID, which is important to be able to route it back to the correct thread. And then this first block here is an agent called Cinnamon. It's a sentiment analysis agent. The funny story on that name is that I'm a Big Bang TV show theory, and Raj's dog on that show's name is Cinnamon, and every time I do it is like cinnamon. And whenever I say sentiment or sentiment analysis and it gets transcribed because of my accent, it often comes out as cinnamon. And so 100% my sentiment analysis agent is going to be cinnamon. That's awesome. So it's basically doing a vibe check of the email and passing on that information downstream to the other agents. So there's even another agent in this flow. There is an expert agent here that's doing what Core would be doing. We've even added in a separate research agent to go out onto the internet to do whatever other kinds of research you might think is valuable, to pass on that context downstream to the other agents. Then you have all that information then gets handed off to the You've Got Mail agent, so that customer service email agent, and it's writing its V1 draft of the email. Even in the workflow, we will do this process of, we call it the toast method. It's it tests, it does a thing, it grades itself, it does it again. It's the meta prompting, but at a workflow level. So You've Got Mail wrote its email, it's QAing its email, and then it does it again here in this next step. And then this is a version of Gigawatt that's called Gigawatt Unhinged. And it writes things that will make your grandma clutch her pearls. It's pretty terrible. And we just do that as an internal agent to send us a Slack message. It's funny. It saves this into a short-term memory bank in a knowledge base in Cassidy, so it will know it moving forward as a history. And then it sends us a Slack message. And so if we're the grower solution team, what this feels like for us, or if we're the Apple team, let's say, is that our agents are constantly listening for new email. And when a new email comes in and they've answered them, it runs through this process of all these different agents doing the work and then pinging us in Slack and saying, hey, Tyler, guess what? Here's the new email we got. Here was the situation. Here's what we thought about it. Here's the version of the email that we wrote. Do you like it? If so, we'll auto send it. If you don't, let us know what we need to do better, and we'll go back and fix it again. And depending on how we answer that question in Slack, it will then force this other trigger right here, which is the second part of this flow. So this is constantly watching that Slack channel that the agents are talking to us in. And we just talk to that agent, no hot words, no fancy language. It's literally we're talking to an executive assistant that comes in and does this. And this is what we call a generative filter. It's just a very simple GPT-4o, or it could be GPT-5 mini, anything, a cheap, fast model that looks at what we said or what the Apple team said and determines, did we say, yeah, it looks great, go ahead and send the email. no, it needs this revision, or it needs to add this, or whatever it might be? Or is it like a message coming back in Slack that's some sort of a confirmation message from an agent? And this is a generative filter. Based off of that, it understands, and it will only print one of three outputs here. It's either like ship it, revise, or confirmed. And based on this output, there's different paths here. So if it says ship it, the agent will go look up the history, go pull the Gmail thread ID, find the email that was written, know that it's approved, and actually go send the email for us. So we don't have to do anything. Like Apple just needed to talk to the agent, and then the agent does its thing. If we had something that we wanted it to improve on or revise, it goes through this different path where it goes and looks up more information. It sees what was done originally. It goes back to the expert agent, the research agent, the email agent. And they kind of do their process again to take into consideration what you said it needs to do differently. And then it brings it back to you in Slack at this like checkpoint for you again of like, hey, we went back and fixed it. Do you like it this time or not? Like we can send it, or if we need to fix it again, we can do it. So it's like all of these agents are working under the hood autonomously without us. And we just have to talk to it in Slack, and that's it. And then once we finally say send it, it sends it on its way, records all that here back into a folder system that we have set up in the RAG knowledge base, so that if, let's say you send through that email about the iPhone Air versus the iPhone Pro, and then we send you a response in email, and then maybe tomorrow you send a follow-up email, we now have memory of that, like both at a system level and like in the email. Also, we could go and like research it in the tool if we wanted to as well. So this is part of the piece of getting it into production, is like building out the workflows and the user prompts and all the system parameters around this. But that's like a whole whole thing to go into that. And at the same time, we have to put into place an eval system, and evals are paramount in production. Like they're so key, because that's what gives you observability and a detailed audit trail to know what it is, what's happening in production, what do you need to go fix, what improvements need to be made, what's actually working well. We put that into a Goldens database to reinforce what's going well. So it's a complicated system to get to like this type of quality, but we haven't found another way to do it, like to get to that level of outcome without that level of like complexity as well.
Amazing. And all these tools we walked through today, what plans are you on? How much are they costing?
You don't want to see my tech stack bill. This is like a mind shift change. So we're in Cassidy specifically, because we actually teach out of that platform as well as use it ourselves for internal work. We're on an enterprise plan with them, so we're spending like a couple $1,000s a month on it. But that's like heavy usage. I would say though, and this is what, like when we were doing more client work, now we're much more like focused in education. When we were doing client work, it's this kind of paradigm shift of don't look at it as like tool expenses. Instead, this is where I have an accounting degree, and it comes in handy quite a bit here, is that look at what this costs you to do without AI, like your people team, to go do each of these functions. If you had to have your experts go get pinged, and their time is valuable to go ask them a question about something that only they can ask, and then you have to give that to a customer service rep, and they have to take the time to read the email and respond to the email. If it's like a high stakes email, they might have to go get that approved or checked off by someone else in management above them before they hit send, calculate their hourly wage, back that into here, and it's always a winning scenario. Like even if this costs a lot of money in credits, when you look at that on a cost to cost of like, not necessarily like tech stack spend, but real world value translated into what are we spending to agentify that process, there's always a huge delta there, like in a positive way. And that will only increase as we keep moving forward, because this is the most appreciating asset. AI is the most appreciating asset in the sense that the quality of the outputs that we get is improving on a logarithmic scale. And we know it'll continue on that trajectory because of things like Moore's Law. And it's also racing to zero on how much it costs to actually use these things. Because there are open source models that you can run for the price of electricity on your local machine now that are like essentially free, that are just as good, if not better, than the leading models from like OpenAI or Anthropic from like 6 months to a year ago. So like, it's going to be the most expensive it's going to be right now is the main takeaway I would tell you for that.
All right. This completes our demo of how to build multi-agent workflows into production. There's obviously much more that we could have gone into, but that's the high level. Before we go, since I have you here, there are a couple questions I have to ask. You guys, you and your partner Sarah, you guys crossed 7 figures in a year. What's your advice to people looking to create 7-figure courses?
Whew. Be ready to work your tail off for sure. We launched AI Build Lab as what we thought was going to be a side hustle, actually. I would say a couple different things. I would say constantly be listening to your customers and iterating and improving, because we hear them, we understand if they're like grasping these concepts and the way that we're teaching it, is it connecting with them or not? And we're going back and revising it so that the next round we're getting better for each cohort. So that's one thing. Once you start to get any sort of kind of massive students coming through, you need to start thinking about your own personal infrastructure, like whether it's like AI-ifying processes yourself or like bringing people team on, like adding the headcount, which we've done, both of those. Yeah, and just like really honestly just like working your butt off as well, like, and bringing value. We spend a lot of time in live sessions answering questions for folks, and we find that has, like, we've poured into them, like we have very much so an abundance mindset, and because of that we don't have to advertise very much. Almost all of our business is word of mouth.
Wow.
And even talking to like the Maven executive team, even Gagan himself, they're like, y'all are a bit of enigma to us because we don't have PhDs after our names and we didn't work for any of the big Silicon Valley tech companies, and yet somehow we've managed to come out of nowhere and make a 7-figure course on Maven. So I think it's just like pouring yourself into the quality of the product that you're giving to your customers and really caring about that.
Are you able to share any facts and figures for folks, like how the business is doing now or how big the latest cohort was?
Yeah. We have had, I don't even know what the new, so we have another cohort starting up here in October. The one that's in there right now is between 100 and 200 people in foundations. And I believe we're over 200 people in our DocGen course, which is like the next course. We are now at a run rate where we're running at like about 1.6 million in gross revenue, which is still kind of baffles me because I'm an entrepreneur. I've been a part of multiple businesses and launched multiple businesses, and Sarah and I take that for granted sometimes of like how quickly we've been able to hit that, and we're grateful for that for sure.
Definitely a really interesting case study. Anybody who's watched this far knows why you've hit that success. It's the depth of the knowledge of these new tools that nobody else has. I've had plenty of people build AI agents on this show, and you have a next level depth of that knowledge. What's next for the AI Build Lab empire?
That's something we've been talking about quite a bit actually internally. I think a few different things. We really want to scale our foundations course, which is our like entry level course. It's definitely not entry level, but it's our first course because for us, it's incredibly important to not just like say it, but actually do it, to bring more people from all over the world, diverse areas of work and demographics, so that we are actually democratizing AI, because we still live in a bubble. Most people still don't know what's even possible with this tech, and we want to enlighten folks and bring more voices and more people to this table, because it's huge. So there's that. And then the other thing I would say is that we've been thinking a lot about trying to get into the product space. So like this Hey Gigawatt thing, we've been trying to figure it out, because that also helps people go from needing to know all of this head knowledge the idea is that Hey Gigawatt works for any kind of a non-technical user, guides them through this process, and builds everything for them in the back end. So it's kind of like vibe coding, and I don't even love that term, but kind of like that for agent building in essence. So, yeah.
Well, I'll be cheering you on from the sidelines. I'm sure everybody who's watched and listened to this point will as well. Tyler, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, y'all.
So if you want to learn more about how to shift to this way of working, check out our full conversation on Apple or Spotify podcasts. And if you want the actual documents that we showed, the tools and frameworks and public links, be sure to check out my newsletter post with all of the details. Finally, thank you so much for watching. It would really mean a lot if you could make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, following on Apple or Spotify podcasts, and leave us a review on those platforms. That really helps grow the podcast and support our work so that we can do bigger and better productions. I'll see you in the next one.